20th of January, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos. Shalom,
Hey,
Rabbi Amari.
good morning, Sean. Good morning, Lou. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Barry.
Good morning. Good morning.
Do you have Aaron Heimwitz's phone number? I see that I got an email that he's checked into my Zoom meeting, which was probably the one I was on yesterday. So
Oh.
is it possible to reach him and tell him that he should go into the regular Zoom link?
I can just call him if you want.
Yeah,
give you
I don't
his number.
I don't have his phone number handy. I don't have a phone handy either right now.
Okay, I'll call him.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. How are you today, Mayor?
We weren't able to reach him?
I think you're on mute. Yeah. Lou, you're on mute.
Sorry, I reached him and I'm going to email him a link right now, Mitzvah Hashem.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let's begin the
What about Roy? Is he supposed to be with us?
I'll send it to Roy also.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I sent it to both of them.
Thank you very much, Lou. Okay. Let's take a look at the Rav Barton. Let's look at the Rav Bartanur again. We're just a couple of quick kazoras here. Who would like to do a little reading to begin with today?
Well, I
I
read it.
would.
Yes, I read it yesterday, right? So
Okay.
I'm done for Shabbat.
You've been swatted, huh? Okay, so you want me to start at the beginning?
With the Rav Bartanur, Maestro Saiglo Oisha.
Oh, okay. Masaros Saig Laosher. Tithes are a fence for wealth. Dichsiv Oser Ta'asher. Oser Ta'aser. Aser Ta'aser. It is written, you shall surely tithe. Aser bishvil shetit asher. Tithe in order to that you will be wealthy.
Right. So the Gemara is darshing the fact that it's a double lashon, right? Which one of the words is apparently extra for a reason to teach us something or many things perhaps. And so therefore the Gemara learns out from that if a person, you should take your tithes, give your tithes, and in order that you should be rich. So we'll discuss this more next week perhaps, but this is one of the few things that a person is allowed to test the Kadosh Baruch Hu. A person is not allowed to test the Kadosh Baruch Hu. When he says, he can't say, Rabboni Shalom, I'm going to learn Torah and you're gonna make me rich. You can't say that. Right? Kadosh Baruch Hu is the king. He does what he wants. But when it comes to giving mice or taking giving your tithes, you have a right, if you want. I'm not saying it's a mitzvah to test Hashem, but you have a right to test Hashem. We'll see the Gemara maybe, and this is based on this Gemara, that you can tithe Bishvil in order that you shall become wealthy.
So I've heard this before, Rabbi, but my my understanding was not that it would make you wealthy, but that you wouldn't lose. In other words, if you give away money for tzedakah, that you'll end up with the same amount of money you would have had if you hadn't given it away.
Right. But apparently what the Gemara is saying here, tis aser means that means that you'll have wealth.
You'll end up being more wealthy.
That seems we'll try and go into the Gemara more next week.
Okay, yeah, because I would ask, how you could measure that, how you could test that. You can test not losing out, but you can't really test getting more, because how much more are you expecting to get?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
Weiter?
Yes.
Masros Siag Leosher.
This is the Rashash's commentary, and he's going to comment on Rav Bartanura, which we just learned.
Why are we going to do this next week? Why can't we do it today? What's going on?
Because we have what's in front of us right now to do, Barry. You don't want to jump the gun. You know what happens in a race if you jump the gun?
You're saying there's going to be something else?
Well, Bezos Hashem, but I just
okay. I see.
Yeah, Bezos Hashem.
I wanted to ask you. I got an email from you with something from Rabbi Miller.
Right.
What's that for? Is that just for information, or are we going to read that?
That'll be relevant for the next year in the with the discussing with the Rav Moshe with the Kohen who's Machal Shabbos, but for Hesia.
Okay. Great.
That'll be relevant to that.
Okay. So is this Al Yadei?
This is Ayin Perish Harav Bartanura. Take a look. He says, take a look at the parish of the Rav Bartanura, which we just did.
Okay. Olam Lashon Siag Muvnu Al
Muvanu. The understanding of that is.
I'm sorry. What does it mean?
From the word muvan. Muvan means that it's understood. Muvanu, its understanding is.
Oh, like
Anim Avim.
Mevin.
Exactly.
Anim Avim. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so really the expression offense is understood al shemiras hadavar shekav.
There should be a resh at the end of that word, shekavar.
Shekavar. So it's understood concerning the guarding of that which it already is.
Right, meaning we're talking about the expression sayog, right? Meaning fence. Fence is something which is understood to be that's a protection of something that already exists.
Right? Oh, so that's consistent with what I was just asking.
Yeah, that's right. That you did, if you want to understand what you said earlier, that meaning you won't lose, meaning it's not that this fence is the fence to excuse the expression that fence is going to make you rich, right? That sounds a little strange because a fence is not something which makes you rich. It'll just protect what you have, right?
Right. So that flows nicely. It says you're going to guard your wealth, meaning that you're not going to lose out on your wealth. In other words, maybe you would have lost out. Maybe you would have had a big expense come up or something like that. And
right.
It's forestalled.
Right. So that's the other point of view, the other perspective that the Rashash is introducing, which is different than the Rav Bartanura's.
Right, because he says it makes you rich.
Right,
Shetit asher means to become rich, correct?
right. So look, that's what the Gemara says, right? That's what the Gemara says. So that I think everyone agrees that is a possibility. The question is, when you want to say the pshat in this Mishnah, Maestros is saying the Oisher, that this is saying something different than that Gemara. According to the Rashash, that Gemara is not relevant in terms of understanding this statement of Rabbi Akiva. The statement of Rabbi Akiva is Maestros are sayeg la'oisher. It's a protection for oisher, meaning it, as you said, it's not that it's going to make you rich, but something it's going to protect your wealth, right? It's going to protect your wealth, because a sayeg, that, as the Rashash points out, is something usually which is protecting something which is pre-existent, right? People usually have something, want to protect it. They put up a fence. Person has valuable diamonds, so he'll go out and buy a safe. Usually don't buy a safe, right, and then look for something to put into it, right? Usually buy a safe after you something you have that you want to protect.
Right.
So that's a different point of view. Now we're going to see the Pnei Shlom over here. The next thing he brings down both of these understandings. We'll see what he says about it as well.
Okay. Upri haraav.
That's the Perish Rav Bartanura. I mean, he's also quoting the Rav Bartanura.
Okay. The Perush harav Bartanura, Masros siag laosher. Tithes are a fence for wealth. Aser to aser, you shall surely tithe. Aser bishvil shetit asher, that you will tithe in order to become wealthy. V'chein perush Rashi.
Yes, also, and likewise, Rashi explains it likewise in that way as well.
Okay, likewise, as explained by Rashi, Hare derech hasiag hu la so kedei lishmor ma shebitocho. So the way of offense is that it makes through guarding what is in it, what is within it.
Right. He says Hari derech hasayag. It is that the methodology of or the intention of making a fence is that it is made in order kedei lasos. It's made kedei in order lishmor es mashavtocha, to guard what is within it.
Okay. Ve'im kain yoser haya roy lifarash ma'a saros siag la osher. And therefore, it is more proper to explain tithing as a fence for wealth. What is this abbreviation?
Alp, even though.
Ha de darshinan.
Okay, but first of all, just in terms of the diktuk, I just want to point out the diktuk in the words here, right?
Yeah.
Because again, it said, if you look at the middle words in the first line there, which is the Gemara, aser bishvil tis aser, that you should tithe in order that you should become wealthy, right?
Yes.
That's different. Drop down to that what we just read, the second line. right? Maestros sayeg la'oisher, right? It was more proper to say that maestros are sayeg la'oisher. There's a difference here. Maestros sayeg la'oisher, like that alpi hadin sharshinim. So he wants to say that it's more properly explained, right? In Cain, Yosai Roy Lefarish, Maishas Sayaglosh. If so, it's more properly explained, the expression Maishas or Sayaglosh, Alpi, according to what Hadid Darshina Alpi, according to what we are darshaning in the Gemara and Brachas. Have it? That you see the flow of the sentence?
I think I had to
Yes.
hear that again. I don't see the connection.
Okay.
Let me try and explain it, Ravi.
Go ahead.
That'll tell if I understood it also. So the first statement, Barry, on the first line says that we understand this expression, tithing is offense to wealth, as saying that if you tithe, you will become wealthy. Now, the second statement, which is the statement of Rashi, is that we should understand this phrase of tithing is offense to the Torah, as it is explained in the following brisa or the following Gemara.
Yeah, well, actually, the Rashi is actually explaining like the Rav Bartanura. I mean, the Rashi is explaining in the same way, which we have this criticism about, right? That usually the fence is designed to protect something which is in it already, right? So that's the criticism. If you want to explain it, that Maishus is a sayeg loisher, that it's a by meisering a person will get rich, because that doesn't really fit in with the symbolism of offense, right? The using of the symbolism of fence lends us to believe that it's protecting something which is in it, that's the usual methodology, the intention of building a fence, right? So that's both Rashi and the Rav Bartanura explaining it that way.
Oh, so there's no difference between those two. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah, Rashi is explaining. Rashi came first, about 300 years before the Rav Bartanura. Rav Bartanura lived at the time of the Spanish Inquisition, if I'm not mistaken, and Rashi lived about 300 years before that. So therefore, because of this criticism of this explanation, he wants to now offer a different explanation. Imkein Yosai Roy Lefarish. It's therefore more properly to be explained that Maishus is a Saiglon Sha'alpi, according to what we darshan in the Gemara there in Brachas. So this is the alternative. This is now coming up, the alternative understanding.
Okay, so now we're going to get to the one that's different.
Yes. Yes.
All right, now I'm confused. I thought that the Rav Bartanura was saying it will make you wealthy.
Right. True.
And Rashi was saying it will only protect the wealth you have.
No, because he says V'chein Pirish Rashi like the Rav Bartanura, period. And after that,
Jewish Rashi,
period.
Oh, I see. That's the end of the sentence. And then when it says, according to the way of offense, who's it quoting?
No, this is his question now. It's not a quote. Now this is the day he's developing his question now.
So Hare Derech Hasiag, that's the Pnei Yeshua,
Pnei Shlomo.
Pnei Shlomo. That's the Pnei Shlomo talking.
Right, that's right.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I really misunderstood that. So the
And
Pnei
the
Shlomo
word
is
Hare,
the Pnei Shlomo now is presenting a different view, and he's introducing it by saying that the way of a fence is to protect what's inside it.
Right, right.
And therefore,
Hari, I mean, the Hari is the beginning of his question or his criticism. So Hari Derek Hasayag, that a fence is designed and made in order that it should protect what's inside of it already.
and therefore, we should look to the following Gemara
Right, as a different explanation.
as a different
Right.
explanation. Okay, so
Right.
this is from the word hare, it's like the introduction to the new explanation.
That's right, correct.
Okay. All right. This Pesach, Pesach in the Pasach in the verse.
Right,
The
exactly.
ish es kadisho lo hayu mi she ma'achav ma'asaros. So in the pasuk, and a man sanctifies him for him.
Right, V'ish es kadishov loy. This let's take a look. We'll have to find where this pasuk is for a second. Let's worthwhile seeing this pasuk inside. One second. B'midbar. Okay, let's take a look at this. Kol truma Okay, this is a pasuk. It's a pasuk in Bamidbar. If you want to write it down, it's a pasuk in Bamidbar. Perik Hey pasuk Yud.
Hey and Yud. Let's see. Hey and Yud, 5 and 10.
Right, and this pasuk is okay. Let's see what it says. It's a pasuk. It's a pasuk which has to do with the person. The kaddish is a reference to the maestros and his trumas. Which he has to give to the Kohen.
Okay, so it says ish yakrivu la kohen lo yiyeh. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I started in the wrong place. V'chol truma l'chol kodshei b'nei Yisrael ish yakrivu la kohen lo yiyeh. No, that's the wrong pasuk. I'm sorry, that's pasuk 9. Okay, sorry about that. V'ish es kadashav lo yi'u ish asher yitain lekohen lo yiyeh. Okay, that's the right pasuk. So it says a man his holy thing.
That's a reference to his maestros, that which is kaddish by him. Those things which are kaddish by him, whether it's his tithes, those things which he has to give to the Kohen.
Oh,
those things
okay,
are
so
owned by him.
his tithe is his.
Right,
A man's tithe is his. And that which the man gives to the Kohen is his, will be his.
right, right, right.
So it's in other words, when he gives the tithe to the Kohen, it becomes the Kohen's.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's something which is owed to the Kohen, and the person is obligated to give those tithes to the Kohen. So he's really giving the Kohen to what's his.
So I'm confused. A man's tithe is his.
Right.
What does that mean? It's not his. It belongs to the Kohen.
No, the benefits of the tithe are his.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, by doing that, he's gonna be benefiting.
Okay, so when he gives it to the Kohen, it belongs to the Kohen, but he benefited in that process.
Right,
That's what it means?
right. So, but now the Gemara is gonna explain further. It says, "Mishma akev ma'asos," right? Someone who withholds giving the tithes, someone who's with ma'akev, who withholds from giving the tithes.
Someone who withholds giving the tithe, the Eino notain lo, and he doesn't give it to him. Hayu ha masros sof she'ein shedehu oseh ella echad ma'asra shehaisa lemodah la'asos. So if he withholds the tithe, he doesn't give it to him. It is that his tithe ends. That it's not. What is shadhu?
Well, it's like one sec. That's again. Mishma akev maestros, a person who withholds giving the tithes, the ena nosino, and does not give them to the Kohen. You maestros soif she'ein seder osel, that, and the ena nosino you maestros, and he's not going to give to him, the Kohen, the maestros. So the outcome will be ultimately. Sof means the outcome will ultimately be she'ein sadehu, his field. Sadehu means his field from Sada. Sadehu is his field.
Isn't it, Rebbe? Isn't that the story of the man who instead of giving 10% or whatever, he gave a certain percentage less. So the next year his field didn't produce as much.
Right. That's I believe the Tosfos brings this Gemara. The Tosfos on this Gemara. Well, this is what we're gonna try. We'll try and see this next week, maybe.
Okay. We're going to get there. Okay. Yeah.
I would hope so. We hope to get this next week, probably.
Okay. But that's where we're getting to.
Yes, that's right.
So in other words, what it's saying is if he withholds his tithe and doesn't give it to the Kohen, then it will be that his tithe in the end or ultimately that his field will only make one tithe that it is, what is lemodeh?
That it's that it would lemodeh la'asos, that his field will not produce except 1/10 of what it is moded la'asos, what is capable of producing or estimated to produce. Moded is like an estimate.
In the end,
Okay.
that's what'll happen.
That's soap. The soap.
In the end, so, but there's, okay, but there's a progression to that.
Yeah. That takes that's another thing, right?
Yeah, okay. So
So in
how
other
do we,
words, if he doesn't give the tithe, then the next year his field will produce 1/10 of what it should have produced?
no, it means that it'll produce according to the tithe he gave. In other words, if he gave, if his tithe was supposed to be 100 bushels, and he
Right.
only gives 90 bushels, he gives 10% less. He only gives 90 bushels. So the next year, his field will produce 90 bushels worth of tithe, and he'll only give 80, and on and on and on and on. Till finally, he's only giving 1 bushel of tithe because his field is so unproductive.
Right.
Right? That's what is that what Rebbe wants?
When we see the Gemara, we'll follow more of it, but it's basically showing that that eventually what happened was a field that produced 100 bushels, right? Only in the end, because he wasn't giving the mice, only produced 10 bushels, which is only 1/10 of what it was capable of producing.
Right.
Yeah. So he continues.
How do we understand, based on all of this, that who's a rich person? The person who's satisfied with his circumstances.
Right. Okay.
So that you have those riches, you're happy with what you have, and
right.
so therefore you're rich. Doesn't matter, what your accountant says. You're just being happy with your circumstances makes you rich.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, apparently it doesn't, you don't, if you're happy, you could be what they would call a poor person in dollars, but you're rich.
Yeah, well, that's something else. That's a person's being he's satisfied with his what he has. Yeah,
right, but he's rich, right?
That's right.
He's a rich person.
Right.
So, and not depending on how big his field is. He could be the laborer who's working for the person who has this huge field. He could be only a laborer, but he's rich. When he goes home, when he goes home at sundown to his little hut and has his small little meal, he's rich.
If he's happy with it, yeah.
If he's happy, right? He's happy.
Okay.
So it doesn't always depend on what's what you're filling out for your taxes at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. That's right. There are more things to being happy than being rich. Okay. True enough.
But I think, Rabbi, the question that's popping out is why should I be so concerned about being rich when it doesn't matter how much I have? I'm rich however much I have. So why should I be thinking, oh, I've got to build a fence around my wealth?
No, because again, let me put it this way. I mentioned this before several times. The Torah says that when Aaron died, Aaron the Kohen died, so everyone, the men, the women, the children, everyone was crying over the loss of Aaron, right? And when Moshe Rabbeinu died, it doesn't make a point of in the pasuk of saying that everybody was crying over the loss of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Chazal explained that because Aaron was busy with making shalom, being ish leishto, and husband and wife, and Adam lechaveru, between neighbors. So since Aaron was busy making peace between people, right? So his loss was felt more poignantly than the loss of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, that's basically what Rashi Chazal explain about the point.
And also Moshe was very critical at times.
Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't make himself too popular sometimes.
yeah, right. So yeah, but that's the leader's got. Leaders got to criticize it. Leaders
Yeah,
not
no,
just
yeah,
leaders not
of course.
a leader's not there to get popularity votes. He's there.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Cohen could go around, and be a whatever you call it, a family, whatever they're called, when they make peace. He could go around doing that, but meantime, Moshe had the whole nation on his shoulders.
Right.
So naturally he had to push a little bit.
Right. So the question is, we know that that Klal Yisrael, while they were in the Midbar, the whole 39, almost 40 years they were in the Midbar, they had the Inani cover that was in the Furst of our coin, that their clothes grew along with them. They didn't have to buy new clothes. They didn't have to even wash their clothes, right? It protected them from the heat and the sun and the cold at night and the dangerous animals in the Midbar. They had the bear Miriam. They had water in the Midbar because in the Skus of Miriam, and they had the man in the Skus of Moshe Rabbeinu. Plus, they came out of Mitzrayim with tremendous wealth, right? They say that the tremendous wealth that they came out of Mitzrayim was only a portion compared to the amount of wealth that they gained when they took the booty away from all the dead Egyptians when they came up out of the sea and were spewed on the seashore at the Yam Suf. So Klal Yisrael was tremendously benefited in all forms of gashmias and wealth and all their needs taken care of, right? So they were tremendously blessed in terms of their physical situation. Nevertheless, what do you see? That Aaron Cohen was busy making peace between people. So you see from this that people can have all the gashmis in the world, right? But that doesn't guarantee that they can have peace between themselves. Because in order to have peace between themselves, you have to have midos tovos. People can have all the wealth in the world, but they don't have midos tovos, so they're not going to have peace and quiet. They're not going to have all the things that make them happy, because the wealth in itself is not going to make a person happy if he doesn't have good midos. His proper outlook, his ashkafas, all the things that are necessary to have a proper peaceful existence between a person and himself, and his person and his wife, and a person between he and his family, and a person between him and his neighbors, right? If a person doesn't have midos tovos, it's going to be very hard for him to have a peaceful existence, even with himself and certainly with other people. So Aaron Cohen was busy trying to get people together because they didn't have the midos tovos. So it's not enough simply to be wealthy and physically blessed. You have to have the spiritual blessing of good midos, and that's only something a person can get on his own. That's not going to be given to a person on a silver platter like they had the man, and they had the Inani covered, and they had the mayim, the beer that they had to work at.
One of the worst battles that ever takes place is when the family's going over the will.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the worst. The families split up over that.
Yeah, I know. I have
and noch a million. I mean, I know a family. I worked with a person actually. I don't want to mention any names, but he left a huge fortune, which included property near Disneyland in Florida. But anyway, when he passed on, the family got into such a machloikis with the suing and this and the properties he owned, property in Montgomery County in Philadelphia, which is, I've seen I know how valuable it was. I saw the properties. They got countersuits and countersuits and countersuits, And nobody got any money. It got tied up in court so long that the only people who got rich were the lawyers.
That's right. You know the famous painting. You know the famous painting.
What?
That you have a cow, right? You have a cow, and on one hand of the picture you have a guy who's holding the head of the cow,
Yeah.
right? And the other guy is holding the back of the cow.
Right.
And they're trying to pull a cow, and this guy wants the head, they want the cow, and this one wants the cow. And in the middle, you got the lawyer, and he's in the middle milking the cow.
Yeah, it's so true. Funny but true.
Yeah.
Funny,
But anyway, I happen to have a very close friend. He told me that in his will, he put in his will that he divided it up the way things are supposed to go. He has Baruch Hashem, sons and daughters and such and family. But he put in a clause. He said, if there's any disputes, any machlokus about the will, all the money's going to a certain yeshiva. Any machlokus, all the money goes to a yeshiva.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, Rebbe, I'll tell you what I did. Not that it was a huge fortune, but when I retired in America and I sold my house, etc., I gave the proceeds of that and my retirement funds. I divided it up and I gave it to my children in front, and I only have my Social Security, and I gave it equally, and now there's nothing to fight over.
Right.
And they're the best of friends, and etc. And there's nobody's jealous of anybody because they each in front, and they were able to buy houses, whatever, and make renovations in their houses, whatever, and they made very good use of it when they needed it, instead of waiting for me to fall over.
Right. That's a shame. You'll be around.
So it was also a benefit that nobody was waiting.
Right.
On my demise.
Right. Don't worry, you'll be around a good long time.
So and it works. It works. Nobody's jealous of anybody.
Very good. Baruch Hashem.
It just now I'm poor.
No,
I'm joking. No, right. I'm very rich. I'm very rich because I have peace of mind.
That's very good. That's very, very wise. Okay, we'll have to stop here and continue on for the next show.
I lost track of the connection between the question I asked and the answer you gave. What does Aaron's being Rodef Shalom have to do with the idea that we don't need to guard our wealth because we're happy with what we have?
Well, no. One thing is guarding our wealth. I mean, the person has to be protective of his wealth. The person should still give maasros, and because the ability that a person has, the Chavos HaLevavos explains as follows: the money that a person has, the physical assets that a person has, the percentage of what he actually owns, which is actually needed for himself, is not the majority percentage of his assets. The majority of his assets, what he has, are really supposed to be for the welfare and maintenance of others, including his wife, his family, supporting yeshivas, Talmidei Chachamim, other poor people, orphans and widows and sick people. And he simply, with the percentage that he has allotted to himself, that's a very small percentage of his actual wealth. The rest of his wealth, as I said, Mr. Chavos HaLevavos says, is really supposed to be used for the benefit of others. So here we see by giving the tithes, that's going to be. We're still in the middle of the second explanation. We haven't finished the second explanation yet, right? But giving the tithes is going to be a way of protecting a person's assets, meaning a person doesn't want to lose anything. The Gemara says even if a person loses for example, a penny, even loses a penny or a dime, that disturbs him very seriously. that it's not simply the monetary loss, but the fact that he's suffering a loss, the very fact of a loss. So a person doesn't want to experience those things. So therefore, part of preserving his happiness is that he shouldn't have to undergo any type of losses of anything, which is very important. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Very good. Okay, we'll continue this
Take a
tomorrow.
little break.
Take a little break. Break time now.